Hello, good afternoon, good evening, good night. Welcome to the last Yorkshire Football podcast of the season. Not much has happened since the last episode, so we'll quickly start by talking about Bradford City. Mike, what do you think?
Well, yeah, I think we've still got a chance to get promoted.
I was only joking. You might have guessed from that intro that today it is me, Dom. I'm joined by Bradford City fan Mike Helinski and Leeds United fan with a big grin on his face, Adam Etherington.
Cheshire Cat today, Dom.
Well,
to the season.
It's the logical place to start, isn't it? Leeds United promoted to the Premier League. About time. 16 years of hurt, I think they put it. Champions of the Championship. You've got a trophy and you're back in the promised land. How do you feel?
When it happened last Friday, when Huddersfield beat West Brom, it was a mixture of happiness and relief. And now that's really changed into a feeling of I'm just really pleased for. I'm pleased for Bielsa more than I'm pleased for myself. I see the pictures of him with the trophy. I see him celebrating, bouncing around. Like he's so adorable, isn't he? And as you two shake your head there on camera, which no one can see, but. Yeah, it was even after the Barnsley game, we beat Barnsley 1-0 on the Thursday, as I'm sure you can remember it. We needed 1 point from the last two, and we needed either West Brom or Brentford to slip up in the last two. And I still was petrified. I still could see us going to Derby. They'd be up for it, dropping points. And then it'd be all on Charlton on the last day of the season who were fighting. As it turns out, we beat Barnsley. West Brom and Brentford don't win again. We win the last two. And lads, it's turned out we've absolutely pissed it. 10 points clear. Yeah, I think 12 points clear of third. It's just the most un-Leeds thing ever. And we'll come on to it in a bit, but that last night in the Championship with all the drama, it was so nice to just sit back and watch that unfold, knowing we'd already done our job as champions. And knowing we were playing that football with the trophy coming at full time, it was just such a big relief. And I'm really glad the players have got to celebrate this as well. You know, they've really have deserved this over 2 seasons. They've been an absolutely quality side, and seeing all the images of the players going out and getting pissed and dancing and shouting and swearing, it's just it really is a team which it's my favourite Leeds team of all time in my lifetime. It's better than Champions League team. It's better than the League One team. They're all just they're all a set of lads who you'd want to go for a pint with. There's people like Mateus Click you'd love to go for a pint with him. Stuart Dallas, Liam Cooper, even Bamford. I probably would go for a pint with Bamford now. And I've slagged him off on this podcast, but I'd go for a pint with him.
Listen, I mean, I'm no Leeds fan, as I'm sure everyone's well aware, but I've been editing quite a lot of Leeds United highlights together recently for highlights packages and stuff. And Bamford's contribution is criminally underrated. I know he misses a lot of chances. That's a big issue for his game, but his contribution to matches is in the right position all the time. I mean, the fact that he's in the position to miss the shots, he should get quite a lot of credit for, really. I think I think that the way that some Leeds fans and some other football fans speak about Bamford's a bit out of order, really.
Yeah, he works really hard, and you know, again, part of the celebrations you saw Bielsa embrace Bamford with a huge Patrick in the celebrations on Friday night, and it's clear that Bielsa loves the job he does. You would like him to be more clinical, and I always want my striker taking the half chances, even the almost impossible chances they get. It seems with Bamford most of the time he's just putting away the ones that are absolutely on a plate with him, and even sometimes, let's be honest, missing those. But
I think modern football's changed. I think that the modern game lends itself quite well to a player like Bamford. I mean, you look at McBurney at Sheffield United. Obviously, things are working for Sheffield United. McBurney scored, 4 or something this season? It's not a lot, and yet he starts every game, contributes to the way that the team play and turn out. McGoldrick scored 2 all season, and yet still regarded as a crucial player by Chris Wilder.
Yeah, that's it. And I think it all started with like Messi and Suarez and those types of players who, they weren't, 7-8 years ago, they weren't big target men. They weren't just finishers. They did offer a bit more, and Bamford does offer that. I think he will need to take, if he's starting in the Premier, he will need to take those slightly more difficult chances than he gets, because he'll have less time on the ball. There'll be better quality keepers in net, and he won't get as many of those half chances. So we will need him to step up. But for now, I heard a podcast the other day, and it was a really good analogy. It was like, the analogy was like saying that your sister had brought a boyfriend back and you weren't too sure about him, and you thought, give him a chance, and then you end up getting married to him. She ends up getting married to him, and then you think, he's here now, he's part of the family, we like him, we'll get on with him. And it's exactly that with Bamford. It's a perfect analogy. I couldn't come up with a better one myself. I
can't relate at all. Let's switch over to Mike then. Mike, how do you feel about your arch nemesis, Leeds United, getting back into the Premier League after 16 years?
Well, I'll be honest, I didn't really want to do this podcast, if I'm honest. I know that we'd be talking a lot about Leeds. Yes, I'm very, very bitter. But yeah, sort of putting rivalries aside for 1 second, obviously they have deserved it. They've been one of the best teams in the Championship all season. I did hope week in, week out they were going to ball it. Deep down, the last few weeks I've been saying to Adam that it's over, but right at the bottom of me, I've been hoping that they might slip up. But yeah, they've been the best team. Obviously, Bielsa has brought magic to them, has turned them around massively. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they go next year, because you look at the likes of Sheffield United, who, again, not many of us probably gave them a chance when they went up before. They'd struggle. Again, I'm probably hoping that Leeds will struggle, but I don't know with Bielsa. You just think that things will just click for them. They might go well. But yeah, no, fair play to them. I'm not going to try. I'm not going to go OTT with it, because I don't really want them. Didn't really want them to go up. Don't want them to do well. But yeah, fair play to them. Let them enjoy it while it lasts, to be honest.
I mean, I'm sort of in exactly the same ballpark as Mike, but I must admit, having grown up surrounded by Leeds fans, I went to school in Baildon, and everyone there's a Leeds fan, despite the fact it's in Bradford. They all pretend it is. I think I am sort of pleased that there is a West Yorkshire side up there. It's good for the city, innit? We all live and work in Leeds. It's decent for the city, I suppose. I mean, I'm clutching at straws a little bit. I've got
I think,
to be fair, there was a little thing about on the news about Leeds getting promoted and what it'll bring to Leeds, and I think they're expecting around 30-40 million that it'll bring in terms of revenue, in terms of obviously like the shops, the bars, the restaurants, that kind of stuff. So yeah, in terms of the city itself, it is great. It is great for the city, and I think is it one of the largest cities in the UK without a Premier League football team? Obviously that's changed now, but not anymore. But yeah, in terms of the city, I think on paper, yeah, it's a Premier League team, innit? That hurts me to say that, but yeah.
Adam, how old were you last time Leeds were in the Premier League? 25, something like
that? Thankfully not. I was 10.
You were that kid who were crying, weren't you? You're that famous kid.
Yeah, I was actually a pretty similar age. To be honest, no offence to the lad, but he's actually aged worse than me. I don't think you've seen pictures of him now, but
surprise! Here he is.
He actually looks a bit like John Riley, another member of this podcast.
But what are the comparisons?
Skinhead and beard. But I'm not. Yeah, he's a good looking lad. Yeah, Mike. To be fair, I'll give you credit where it's due. You came out on Saturday. Well, Friday night you went missing when we went up. I nearly sent a search party out for you. I were a bit worried at one point. But Saturday morning, when you did say, "Hold my hands up, fair play," I hoped you'd fail, but well done, enjoy it. Good sportsmanship. I'm a big fan of that. Frank Lampard could learn a lesson from you.
I was piggybacking on it, trying to build up my own vanity, because I remember Dad recorded loads of Leeds stuff earlier in the season, so I was like searching my hard drives, looking for it all. It's all done quite well.
What else do you find in those hard drives?
Loads of Bradford City stuff, mate. What are you implying?
But back to the point on the Prem. I was, again, all season when you're in that worried state, will we go up, what, where you see every flaw in the team apart from the good things. I think now we've gone up, I've realised we probably only need to add 3 or 4, and I think one of them is Ben White permanently. If we can get Ben White permanently, what a player he is. If we don't, then it'll be because he's gone to a bigger club, I'm sure, be it a Man City, Liverpool. I think Arsenal just need to bid for him and get him, but maybe they don't have the money. But get Ben White, maybe get a striker as potential replacement or competition for Bamford. Attacking midfielder, I think you can't rely on 35 going on 36-year-old Pablo Hernandez in the Prem, but it'd be good to keep him around the squad. And then
when we were in the Premier League first season, we relied on old men and we did all right, finished 17th.
Yeah, I mean, I'd quite like to not scrape survival on the last day of season. I'm not sure I could take another roller coaster season. I'd be quite happy with, I say that, I probably would take it, but I'd be quite happy with a 13th, 14th next year. No danger of relegation, just...
I don't understand. Surely the greatest coach on planet Earth is going to win the Premier League for you next year. I mean, how has he got this label if he's not just going to win everything straight away?
Anything but Champions League should be a disappointment, really, shouldn't it?
Yeah, it should be. Second in line to God.
It's pound for pound. It's pound for pound. You wouldn't put Floyd Mayweather in with Tyson Fury because his head knocked out because he's a lot. He doesn't have. Yeah, I'd love to see that actually. He doesn't have the power. He doesn't have the spending power. He doesn't have. He needs to build himself up, and if we can keep Bielsa for a couple of years, keep adding bits of quality, I think we can consolidate and then kick on. But it's his first season back in the Prem. I don't care what. Even when Wolves went up the other year, and everyone was pretty sure they'd stay up, I'm sure Wolves fans would have still accepted 17th that first season.
How much have you spent so far, though, with like Costa, Harrison, the goalkeeper today? That's a good nearly. What's that? 25, 30 mil?
Well, so Costa was 15, Meslier was 5. Apparently, they're just getting Harrison back on another season-long loan and then paying that next summer. Right, so that is already 20 gone. I can't see us spending more than sort of 70 at a push. Even that sounds crazy.
What if he signs Willian? Could happen, mate. He's on a free.
Well, have you seen the rumour with Cavani? Which I'm not sure quite where this rumour has come from, but he'd be all right. He'd be good competition he'd be good on bench for Bamford, wouldn't
he? Yeah, I mean, don't you remember that rumour in the 90s about Baggio signing for Ipswich? There's always these rumours knocking about.
Yeah, I think, left back, attacking midfielder, striker, and then get Ben White permanently because, lads, he is, I mean, Dom, I don't know if you've seen much for in your cutting and editing. He is a class above. I mean, I do think if we wouldn't have got Ben White this year, I'd be interested to see how we'd have done with Pontus for another year.
As far as I can tell, getting rid of Pontus was actually a fucking shrewd move because Bielsa's obviously tried to build this tight-knit squad, like you said, lads that you want to go out for a beer with. And I think that Pontus was a bit of a disruptive influence amongst that group. You know, he seemed to be very individual, wanted things all his way. I mean, the giving away of that goal last year where Pontus just couldn't take it, split Leeds fans down the middle because half of them were saying, yeah, that's exactly what we want. We want someone who's going to smash someone who's walking the ball into our net. But the other ones were saying, look, we don't want anyone who's going against Bielsa. And I think that getting rid of a player like that, and it's happened before for other clubs, you get rid of the disruptive influence and all of a sudden you look like more of a solid squad, regardless of how good that player is. You always look better. Anyway, I think that's enough of talking about the white shite from Beeston. Let's talk about yesterday. So we're recording this on Wednesday, the day after the unbelievable Tuesday in the Championship. I mean, if anything...
You got your days from there.
Why? What day is it?
It's Thursday.
Thursday, don't mad.
Yeah, it's lockdown. I've got no contact dates or time. But anyway, yeah, it's Thursday. So this is the day after the Wednesday in which the Championship put itself up there with the best leagues in the world. It's an unbelievable finish to the league. And, I mean, obviously for Leeds, it was good to get a win on the day that they were getting the trophy at Elland Road, blah, blah, blah. It all went very well. Enough of that. Let's start with Barnsley, flying the flag for true Yorkshire grit down there at the bottom of the table. And I know that they've kind of fluked it because of the whole Wigan scenario, but if you cheat, you deserve to get, you play with feathers, you get your ass tickled sort of thing. They're done. Barnsley, the way that they came back into form after lockdown, sensational. They deserve to stay up, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely unbelievable, Barnsley. And obviously, Tommy mentioned it there. Championship, I just don't think there's a better league. It's one of those leagues where anything could happen, and I think yesterday sort of proved that. But yeah, the lockdown, the break of the 2-3 months where no football was played, did Barnsley an absolute dream. Obviously, the manager came in November. You could tell that during that period, it gave him the opportunity to spend some time with the players on the training ground, because I was looking today actually and looking at some of the data and stats around Barnsley since post-lockdown, and they've come back, and in the Championship, the team with the highest press and highest possession in terms of build-up play, sustained threat. And it just shows of how different of a team they've been pre-lockdown to post-lockdown. And obviously, with that 7-point turnaround, 4 wins, and I think it was 2 or 3 draws. I think just the break has done them a world of good, and what a turnaround, and massive credit to the manager, massive credit. And to be fair, I don't know how much you guys have seen them. They've been quite a good team to watch as well. The way they've been playing, they've kept the ball, moved the ball quite quickly. It's not as if they've just come back and scraped it. They've actually played some nice stuff and picked up some really big results against big teams. And don't get me wrong, like I said, the Wigan situation helped them big time, and obviously they've appealed it, so it could still go down on paper. But
that was making me cringe a little bit last night when they were singing "We Are Staying Up" and the manager was crying. I was thinking, what if next week it's all just they are down?
They are down, yeah. But yeah.
Well, Sky Bet have paid out my bet on Barnsley to stay up, which regular podcast listeners will have known that I put on during lockdown when there were 7 points adrift. So stay tuned for more expert tipping on the Yorkshire Football podcast into next season. But no, Mike, you're absolutely right. They play some good stuff. I saw a graphic on Twitter which sort of showed how the intensity at which teams press in the Championship, and Leeds was, as you can imagine, bright red, which indicated incredibly high press all over the pitch. But the second team,
put it away, lad, bloody hell.
the second team on there, with clearly the second highest press, was Barnsley. And when we played them last Thursday at Elland Road, they were the better side. They should have taken something from the game against us. They missed at least 3 or 4 gilt-edged chances, and the goal we scored was a pretty fortunate own goal. And it had been a bit of a travesty if they did go down, because the football under the new manager, like you say, they've played has been really, really good. And I think next season, I can see them sort of kicking on. Maybe if they manage to keep Solbauer, if they manage to keep the manager, Struber, obviously, then I can see him kicking on and being comfortable in the end, near a mid-table at the bottom.
Let's quickly move on to Huddersfield then. Firstly, before we talk about them staying in the Championship, the sacking of Danny Cowley seemed to be a bit of an odd one, especially with, what was it, at the time they sacked him 2 games left? Bit weird.
Yeah, absolutely mad, because obviously when those lads came in during the season, surely their only aim was to keep the team in the Championship. Obviously inherited a squad that, if it had been sort of start of the season, he might not have kept a lot of those players. So if you look at it on paper, they've done what's been asked of them. Obviously, a lot has come out since then around sort of potential fallouts around transfers and not agreeing on certain things. So it looks like that has caused that for them to go. But obviously, you saw in their statement that they weren't taking job applications. So it does make a question, because you think they've already had someone lined up. They've already had discussions about someone who could potentially come in. But yeah, I think it's absolutely bonkers. I think the Cowleys are good managers. I know you sort of disagree with that a little bit, Adam. I'm not saying that they took them on to to the Premier League or anything like that, but I think they're good, solid managers, and I think they deserved a fair crack at the Championship, and they did very well at Lincoln, and I think they could have done okay with a pre-season and opportunity to build their own team. So yeah, bonkers, and we'll see how this new Leeds man goes. I don't know too much about him. Is he the actual brains? Is Bielsa a myth? Is this guy the brains? That's the question, and we'll find out next season.
Well, I'm sure we will find out to answer that.
I feel quite bad for the Cowleys though, because I remember interviewing them when they came into Huddersfield, and they were saying how they wouldn't have left Lincoln unless the opportunity was exactly what they wanted to do. Unless they had the freedom to go in and take their management style to a new club, go in there and reset the club and make it and make them play football the Cowley way and run the club the Cowley way. And yeah, that seems to have unravelled pretty quickly. I don't really know what Huddersfield were expecting, because before the Cowleys came in, they were in free fall. They looked like a club that were a mess, typical club that went beyond their means when they were in the Premier League. They come out of it and they're desperate to get it back immediately. And they do everything wrong. Everything's rushed. So I don't really know what it is that they were expecting. They needed the Cowleys to come in and stabilise the club, which, as far as I can see, they did. Granted, there were a few crappy results in there, but sort of to be expected. Well, they stabilise the club, and then it all, it just unravels. And I think they've got serious problems since losing Dean Hoyle at Huddersfield. They've got serious problems back in the boardroom. I think it seems to be a real mess.
What's crazy is if Huddersfield didn't beat West Brom last Friday, which was obviously the game which sent us up, without that 3 points, they'd have been below Charlton. They'd have been relegated, and that was a massive win. And it was strange timing. Granted, they had just basically secured their Championship status. But for me, I think Cowleys, if I was a League One club, I'd be desperate to appoint the Cowleys. I think they'll play really organised football, even bottom half champ. I think if a club similar like next year with Huddersfield, if they sack the manager and they want someone to just keep them up, they'll probably be a good bet. They'll probably get them organised. But I think for a club like Huddersfield, which has just been in the Prem, they're getting parachute payments. You need to really, the Championship now, it's very hard to just do anything just off being an organised side. You've got to have something a bit special. You've got to have players like Fulham you've got to have a manager like Bielsa. You've got to have someone who's willing to have a system of scouting really attacking, exciting young players like Brentford. And you've got your Derbies and Rooney's in mid-table. You've got really good sides like Blackburn who've got brilliant attacking players in mid-table. You need a bit of something. And I think if you can't appoint Bielsa, then get the man he's taught over the last 2 years and nurtured. And I think it's a really good appointment by Huddersfield. I'd have done the same, if I'm honest.
You think Bielsa's going to unravel?
I'm sure he will, but I have a good for
Bielsa.
I actually, I sound like a betting addict on this. I actually backed Corberon to be next Leeds manager a couple of years ago, when it was clear that Bielsa was kind of nurturing him to be his replacement. But hasn't happened, and thankfully it hasn't happened. But Huddersfield are definitely getting someone who's been taught well there.
Moving on to Hull then. I know that they're questionably Yorkshire, but a team that we can be quick on this, because we knew that they were in absolute free fall. We knew relegation beckoned for them after losing the core of their squad really and struggling to get any sort of form together. What are your reflections on the Tigers?
They're a mess from top to bottom. Obviously, you mentioned there, they lost the 2 players in January, never replaced them, which was huge. McCann's a questionable manager himself. But I think until they get upstairs sorted, I think with the Allens, it's an absolute mess. And I'll be honest, I really don't see them bouncing back until that happens. I think they could quickly become a team that you don't see in the Championship for a few years. Because I just can't see the Allens investing in the team and to get them straight back up. McCann, like I said, is it good enough? I'm not sure. I'll tell you something who would be a very good appointment there, who we just mentioned. I think Cowleys at Hull could be a fantastic shout on a restricted budget. Like I said, I don't think there's going to be a massive amounts of money. So yeah, I think they're a team that could be in League One for many years to come. I don't expect an instant return.
I'm just looking on flash scores now, and unless my quick adding up is mistaken, it's 6 points from 20 games in the Championship. They beat Rotherham 3-2 away on the 4th of Jan, and since then they only had one win, which was against Middlesbrough.
Oh, they were terrible, mate. They were it was like as if someone had just dropped a National League team in the Championship just to see how they'd do.
Yeah, I mean, 8-0 away at Wigan as well. 7-0 down at half-time. That doesn't happen to even a poor side, does it?
But the weird thing is McCann is such an arrogant fella. He's so weird. Like, he never really blame himself.
And Matt Flanagan, brief appearance maker on this podcast.
Who's that?
Yeah, who is that?
Appearance, hasn't
he? He was singing McCann's tunes at Donny last year until he jumped ship to Hull, and I do feel a bit sorry for him. If you sell your two wingers and your two creative players, and basically the two reasons to get out of bed if you're a Hull City fan, it's not going to end well. And I completely agree, Mike. I can't see them bouncing back next year. I think you look at Wigan and you look at, well, even Charlton might struggle to bounce back. I think there could be a couple of teams there who go down from the Champ who maybe have a few years in League One.
On to Sheffield Wednesday then. A shame we don't have John Riley with us. He was supposed to be, but I think he's stuck under the thumb, he said, something like that. Anyway, he's not with us. So Sheffield Wednesday, a bit of a damp squib of a season for them as well, really. There's nothing outstanding to talk about, is there? They existed for a season.
They've just been waiting for the season to end for the last few weeks. I think Riley did mention when they came back from lockdown, I think he was still hopeful they might make a last-minute run to the playoffs. I don't know what planet he was living on, to be honest. But yeah, they've just been waiting for the season to finish. Obviously, they've still got this point deduction hanging over them, which they're saying that should be some clarity on that in the next week or so. And Sheffield Wednesday, if they do get a point deduction, and obviously it can, if I'm right in saying with the financial stuff, it can go all the way up to minus 21 points. So they could be a League One team next year, depending on what the outcome is. So Charlton, it could be a Championship team still next year, depending on what this looks like.
This is the Yorkshire Football podcast. So.
I've said it before. I said it on the previous podcast. Wednesday just need Mick McCarthy more than any other club. They need a season next year, no matter what happens to this points deduction, no matter whether they get no points, whether they get the points this season, if they get points next season. Get big Mick McCarthy next year and stabilise the club, because they need to lower the wage bill. They need to have a bit of a rethink there, I think, and John needs to have a bit of a rethink as well. You guys think I'm overly emotional, but the amount of times he thought that Wednesday were going to make a late charge for the playoffs past about February, past about Valentine's Day, was absolutely incredible.
Well, yeah, that brought an end to what's been a pretty entertaining Championship season. Lots of Yorkshire clubs involved. Obviously, great to see a couple of Yorkshire clubs in there doing well. I'm talking about Leeds and, of course, Barnsley resurrecting their season.
I mean, Dom, how that final day of the Champ last night, how good was that? It was better than a TV series you'd watch on a Wednesday night. It was just pure entertainment from start to finish.
And I love it. I love it when it works out like that, because nobody really plans that, do they? When they're sorting the fixtures out at the beginning of the season, you can't plan to have an exciting final day, and yet it'll be hard to get another weekend like that or another round of fixtures like that means so much to so many people, where one result can change the entire look of the table. I think after 40 games, the bottom three was something like, it was Luton, Stoke and Barnsley, I think. And neither of those teams went down. And yet after 40 games, they were all in the bottom three. It's insane.
Yeah. I mean,
I don't know about you guys, but sort of watching it last night, obviously when it was going to different grounds and the different scores, for me, just watching it was just like surreal without the fans, in terms of, obviously, when the fans, you see the emotion, they've got their hands on their heads or their head in their hands and all that kind of stuff. Don't get me wrong, it was unbelievable, but
You're
to
right.
me, there was just something missing. There was just something missing there, that raw emotion, because obviously that emotion would have still been there with the fans, but you just can't see it because obviously they're at home or wherever they're watching the game. But yeah, imagine going on the ground and seeing the fans' emotion last night. It would have been unbelievable. It would have been another level.
Yeah, I think going into the last minute, you have a team who scores to get it into the playoffs. You have a team who scores to get out of the relegation zone. You had a team in Brentford. If they'd have scored, they'd have gone up automatically. If Wigan would have scored, they'd have stayed up. There was so much riding on it in the last minute, and there was two injury time goals to massively change the season. And I mean, I know they're not Yorkshire, but Forest, wow, that is. If that was Leeds, I would never hear the end of it from you boys.
No, I mean it's disgusting, really. I'm so glad I'm not a bloody Nottingham Forest fan. I mean, that Lamucci as well is actually a really decent guy and looked like he was doing a good job, but it all just seemed to unravel for them really quickly. But I don't feel sorry for him. Couldn't give a shit, to be fair.
I'll stay quiet on that one. So I don't know if you boys remember, but before a ball was kicked again, we were sort of predicting, weren't we, if it all stayed as it did in terms of if football, once it came back. I predicted Forest to go up by the playoffs. So yeah, I'll stay quiet on that one.
Typical Bradford fan, always wrong. True, we're always bloody wrong. Why we're in the mess we're in. Anyway, we don't need to talk about Bradford.
Not next season, mate. 100 points, Stuart Matt going up, winning the league. Can't wait for it. Bring it on 12th September. Up the chickens.
Have you signed anyone yet?
Of course we have, mate. We've re-signed 2 players, signed 2 players. He's building, mate.
The entire list of rumoured transfers are all players who played for us before.
Yeah, I know.
Not even that long ago.
We went through that stage when we were in League One with like Alan Smith getting linked back to him, Johnny Woodgate, Lee Bowyer, about 10 years after their prime with us previously.
Yeah, well, that's kind of what's happening with Bradford players.
Yeah, but the thing is, we didn't even have a prime with half of these players either.
No, but one of them did miss a near chance in the playoff final.
Don't want to talk about it. Would have been a championship team already if it weren't for him. But let's not talk. Let's not get into that now.
Who's that? Is that Cullen?
No, that is
Billy Clark.
Billy Clark, yeah.
Grimsby.
Anyway.
But yeah, right, lads. Before we go, we do have an award ceremony of sorts. The Yorkshire Football Awards. Now, we struggled to scratch a team together today, so it's just us 3 giving out the awards. I've already predicted that the answer to each of these categories, chosen by Adam Etherington, will be Sheffield United. I can't see how any Yorkshire team is going to beat what they've achieved, what Chris Wilder has achieved. I mean, come on, Adam. I mean, it's great that Leeds are in the Premier League. Well done. I'm buzzing for you, mate. But Sheffield United went into the Premier League as like one of the favourites to go down. And look at them. Look at them. They've only just missed out on Europe. They're playing good football. He's made the most of it. He barely brought anybody in.
They haven't lockdown. They've been poor since lockdown.
Yeah, but haven't we all, mate? We've all had a bit of a dip since lockdown. Right, let's get into the award. So I'll announce the categories, and you two can argue.
Yeah.
Right. So firstly, Yorkshire Team of the Year. Now I'm not asking you to pick an 11 here. You just need to pick a team that you think deserves recognition to be crowned Yorkshire's Team of the Year, to represent that glorious white rose until this award ceremony next season, if the podcast hasn't died a death by then. So, Team of the Year, let's start with you, Adam Etherington. I mean, I'm only starting with you, mate, because I know what's coming. So, go on.
You don't know what's coming. I know in my heart of hearts I need to give one of these awards to Sheffield United. And I think it's going to have to be this one.
Oh.
I can't betray my boy Bielsa in the next category. So I will reluctantly go for Sheffield United. I don't want to be too biased and go for Leeds for each one. But they have, I did think they'd struggle. You look at their team, they've got McGoldrick, who's a player who's been around the block in the Championship, Ollie Norwood, Billy Sharp, John Fleck, and I did think there was a definite ceiling on that team. I actually thought the ceiling was about 8th in the Championship last season. but they've not gone. They've gone beyond 8th in the Championship. They're about 8th in the Premier League. So I know I should give them one. It'll be this one, and it has been a good achievement. I do think their form since lockdown has been poor, and they didn't have to be much better than poor to get a European spot, which they're ultimately going to miss out on now, which is a shame for them. But they have some of the performances they have put together has been really impressive, including I know they beat Frank Lampard's Chelsea 3-0 the other week as well. So on that alone, I'll give them the nod on this one.
Okay, Mike.
Yeah, well, it's the first time me and Effington have ever agreed on something. So Sheffield United are my Yorkshire team of the year. Sort of echoing everything Adam said there. I don't think there's one person who could tell me they thought that they'd do this well. So they've gone on. They're obviously, like I said, the 8th in the Premier League. Lockdown did kill them a little bit. They were sort of in touching distance of Champions League football. I'm not saying they would have kept that up, but obviously they had momentum their way, and like I said, lockdown did kill them. They're 8th in the Premier League. They also got to the quarterfinals of the FA Cup. So yeah, I think with the players that Adam just talked through there, unbelievable season. They've done extremely well. So yeah, I think it's a no-brainer in terms of the team of the year for me in Yorkshire.
All right. So on to the next category then. And Adam said he wasn't going to betray his boy Bielsa, I think as he put it. So this one is most overrated manager in Yorkshire. No, I'm only joking. We all know who that is, and he's currently managing Hull. Anyway, manager of the year. Mike, I'm going to start with you on this one. Who is your manager of a Yorkshire team of the year?
I've gone a bit left field and gone a bit out there because of what happened last night, and I think a lot of people might argue this, but I've gone with Struber at Barnsley. I think what he has done, I talked about it before, lockdown, he sort of used it to his advantage to really spend time with the players on the training pitch, get them playing the way he has done. And for me, it just shows the quality of a manager in a short period of time where he's literally turned the team around, got them playing. We talked about that high press. We talked them being in the highest in the league in terms of top 6 for possession and fast tempo. So yeah, and coming 4 wins, 3 draws. So for me, for keeping them up when literally everyone but Adam Bridges didn't stay up, thought that they were done, dusted, they were down. They spent the whole season in the relegation zones until last night. So yeah, for me, I'm going for him because I just think it's an unbelievable turnaround when I think they were written off. So yeah, a bit left field, and I couldn't bring myself to picking Bielsa.
Well, Mike, unlike you, my manager is humble, kind, inspiring, innovative. He's all the things that Frank Lampard isn't. Oh. And what he's done with this Leeds team, he's spent no money and he's turned a mid-table side into contenders last year, into champions this. It's a joy to see him lifting that trophy and dancing around and being so happy. It really is a strange feeling, having never met the man, to be so happy for what he's doing.
Get out, man! Fucking hell!
My manager of the year is Marcelo Bielsa, and I hope he never leaves Leeds United.
No, I think that's fair enough. You both put good points forward, but it's obviously been a 16 years struggle for Leeds United. They've obviously struggled to bring the right person in, and I can't believe it wasn't Simon Grayson that got you up there, to be honest. But it's Bielsa.
It should have been Simon Grayson. If Ken Bates would have backed him, and we'd have done. It was around the year when a lot of teams were doing back-to-back League One Championship promotions, and we were second in the league in December. We were in a playoff fight, but he wasn't backed. So, but it all feels worth it now. All those heartbreaks, those playoff losses, everything seems worth it to see this Bielsa side.
Yeah, you said. Right, on to the next category. The next and final category is Player of the Year, Yorkshire Player of the Year. Who has represented a Yorkshire team to the utmost for you this season? Adam, let's start with you.
So I'm going to go with Ben White for this one. And it's with a bit of a heavy heart because technically he's a Brighton player, but what he's done in that Leeds team this year, like we mentioned before with Pontus Jansson, we were unsure whether he could really fill that void left by Jansson, such a big personality, such a big character. But he's come in and he hasn't put a foot wrong all season. The way he dribbles out with the ball is unlike anything else I've ever seen in a Leeds shirt since Rio Ferdinand, Lucas Radebe days. He's so calm in possession. He's a great one-to-one defender. He's, as we saw last night, he's got everything in his locker, including volleys from the edge of the box into the top corner. He's a player which I firmly believe, if he's not a Leeds player, he'll be in a team in the top six, probably a Liverpool or a Man City. He's miles better than a John Stones, and I think Gareth Southgate will have him involved in England setup very, very soon. There's been a lot of good players to choose from this year in Yorkshire sides, but yeah, Ben White for me, head and shoulders, absolute quality.
Oh, else about Leeds, mate? All the players shit golden eggs, something like that. It's all
I picked Sheffield United team of the year for you.
You did, well done, well done, Mike. What about you? Who's the player who stands out?
So tonight it is a miracle tonight because there's two things me and Adam have agreed on. Obviously, I tried to not go for Leeds for any of them, but when I was looking through it earlier today, I was like, I can't not ignore what Leeds have achieved. And yeah, for me, Ben White. I'm going to go back to his Peterborough days before he even joined Leeds. It looked the real deal then. When he signed for Leeds, I knew they were getting a good player on their hands there. And I think one thing for me is, on top of all the things Adam just described there, is the bit around Liam Cooper, because last season Liam Cooper got a lot of stick from a lot of Leeds fans, and I think it's shown how good Ben White is, because I think he's made Cooper into a much better centre half this season. Cooper hasn't put a foot wrong majority of this season. I don't think that's just by chance. I think that's because of the effect of Ben White next to him, and that's how good Ben White is. I think he's got a big future in the game. I'm not going to sit here and say he's going to be class and he's going to go and play for England, because I think there's still a question mark of going to the Premier League. But from what we've seen, I think he's going to be the real deal, and I think it was the reason why Leeds did so well. I think he led from the back, and he just sort of suited and played that style that Bielsa wanted, and it started with him. So yeah, I think Ben White for me. And if Leeds can't get back next year, I think that's a huge hole for them that they need to try and go and fill.
I think on this category of players that have played well for Yorkshire clubs, I think that as a caveat, we should talk about a player from Yorkshire who's represented the county very well, and that's Mason Greenwood. 17 goals in his first full season as a professional. How old is he? 17, 18 years old.
Bradford lad. Yes, something positive coming out of Bradford.
Proper part of Bradford, that as well. Well, Wibsey.
Wibsey, yeah.
Rough as a bag of weasels up there, but he's represented the county. No, it's fine. Wibsey's fine. He's represented the county very well. An unbelievable player. I mean, he is a player who's going to be on Gareth Southgate's radar. He's not the last player to come out of Bradford to represent Man United, Tom Cleverley, who dropped off a cliff. This guy has got techers to coin.
Yeah, it looks the real deal, and I'm one of the worst for it, and England fans are terrible for it. Also, we do get really excited by a youngster, and we think, how many times have we done it where we think they're going to be the next big thing? But what we have seen, he looks the real deal. Like the way he strikes a ball, it reminds me of Ronaldo. He strikes it so clean, so much power. He can use both feet. You don't know if he's left-footed or right-footed. And look where he's playing as well. Like he plays in that three, and that's not naturally his position. And he looks outstanding. Yeah, I'm very excited for him, and I'll be very surprised if he does not go to the Euros next year. I'm very confident that we'll see him in an England shirt at the Euros next year. I really do.
You mentioned there, Mike, about how we, as England fans, we tend to get overexcited when we see a good young player coming through. Generally too excited, they end up in the team too soon and we ruin them. But I feel like this generation of young players that's coming through is just a little bit different. It's not like, where Rooney came through and he had outstanding skill, but there was just, he was a very good player, don't get me wrong. Rooney was an outstanding player. His record speaks for itself. I don't really think he underachieved, like a lot of people say. But I think that this new generation have got a bit of a spark about them. They're a bit exciting. they all strike you as not only someone that they like when those exciting players like Ronaldinho and stuff were coming through, a player that you saw and you thought, oh God, he's just going to rip us apart by himself.
Yeah.
And you get that with Jadon Sancho. You get it a little bit with Greenwood. Rashford, I would include in that category. I know he's out of form a little bit at the minute, but he's a great player. And if we get all of these in the England team, and then, of course, you've got Trent Alexander-Arnold. I know he's not quite done it for England yet, but he's capable. And it's just very, very exciting. I think you look at Dean Henderson as a goalkeeper as well. We seem to have players across the board.
Ben White.
Ben White, exactly. We've got players everywhere that are going to excite us. Whereas with England, before it's always like one or two come through at a time. And they all just they're like ships in the night. They never end up in the same squad, really. Or when they do, it's the Gerrard Lampard situation where they just cancel each other out in the squad. I think what we've got now is a real bunch of exciting players that will take the game to people. And they're almost fearless, they're kids. And look at Mason Greenwood. He plays against experienced pros as if he's been doing it all his life at that level.
And then you've got players like Harry Kane who are just coming into their prime. And I completely agree, Dom. I think Euro 2021, I think we'll be toasting Leeds' top 6 finish in the Prem, followed up by success on the continent.
It's just exciting. And I was thinking about this the other day, how you look back to the 2018 World Cup, and we were all obviously working in the same office, and it was literally, it took over our lives. We were all obsessed with it. I mean, Mike's buying bloody tickets to go to Russia because he thought we were going to get in the final. We all went absolutely mad for it. And then as soon as it's over, it's as if it never happened.
Yeah.
Like, look, where's Kieran Trippier? Trippier gave me probably the greatest moment of my footballing life, at least internationally. And he disappeared like you never hear of the guy.
Yeah, that going back to 2018, it's that feeling like it just brings the nation together, doesn't it? Especially obviously with England doing well, and obviously with us not doing so well for so long. That it's just that feeling, and like I said, that excitement for next year is very exciting with the players, because there's a lot of players we haven't even named there who would walk into the England 11. Like, for example, I didn't even mention Sterling. And he walks into most teams, and the only concern I have, and the positives, like the likes of Ben White coming through, is centre half. I do worry there, because Maguire, massive question marks over. He's not an £80 million defender. I don't know if you saw that defending last week, where obviously that video went viral. Gomez looks the deal. Yeah, it looks good. It looks like a lot of potential. Obviously, played very well alongside Van Dijk, but how good is he when he's playing alongside Harry Maguire, who's got a mistake in him? So for me, if Ben White starts in the Prem next season, he's got a very good chance of potentially knocking on the door next year, if he obviously goes well. Because it is
is the only worry, I think.
Yeah.
Ben White's 4-1 with Sky Bet to get in the Euro 2021 squad, for what it's worth.
It's like, I know that we tend to hype up players, and normally they come from teams that struggle, because obviously you get to see those centre backs in action a lot more. I mean, Tyrone Mings is a prime example of that. I mean, his form's dropped off a cliff as well. I mean, he could well be back in the call centre by the time next World Cup comes along. I do, and it does annoy me, really. I know that there's nothing you can do about it, but it annoys me that in the past we've had really good centre halves, and everyone else in the team's been crap, and now most of the team is looking pretty solid and exciting, and it's the centre-backs where you think we might struggle. And, we thought we had that solved with Harry Maguire, but his league form has just been pretty woeful, really. He's not, he's nowhere near the sort of standard of your Rio Ferdinand or John Terry, players that you could absolutely rely on. I mean, I can't remember either of those two players making a mistake, and I'm sure they did, but I think the fact I can't remember it means it probably wasn't such a big deal.
I really liked Maguire in the 2018 World Cup, and I was campaigning for him to start over. It was either him or Phil Jones, and that was the big discussion.
Yeah, and he played really well. It's since then that he's just lived up to his billing.
That's it. I don't think I'm being Man United anti-bias here. I do feel like I said when Man United signed him, that's a great signing, but yeah, he seems to, his form does seem to have dropped off. I think that every time he gets it back.
I mean, he's one of Yorkshire's finest representatives. I mean, the one amazing thing to come out of the 2018 World Cup was, of course, it was based on a core of Yorkshire.
Yeah.
So fingers crossed we get a similar sort of thing next year. Well, I think I want to finish on one final category, and that is the biggest letdown from Yorkshire this season, because although for Leeds and Sheffield United things have been pretty good, and Barnsley we can leave out of it because they stayed up and because they did so well. I think that they're out of it. But then we've got Hull, Sheffield Wednesday, Bradford City, teams that should have done much better this season. Bradford City for me is the one. But Adam, let's start with you, mate. Biggest letdown.
So I'm going to go from a guy who he's just not performed this season. Whenever we've asked anything of him, he's just not delivered. He's been really quiet. He's not a leader. I'm going to go with Matt Flanagan for his lack of podcast appearances.
I thought you were going to go for Calvin Phillips there.
Mike?
I'm going to go for a hat trick there and agree with Adam. I'm going to go with Flanners as the biggest Yorkshire letdown. I don't know. We've heard many excuses. Obviously, Gooders has been to a few IKEA trips. Flanners, I don't know if he's under the form or he just doesn't get good enough Wi-Fi in Doncaster. But yeah, he's just he's always, every time we ask who's sort of on the podcast tonight, we never hear from him. So yeah, it's got to be Flanners, the biggest letdown in Yorkshire this season.
Series 2 of the Yorkshire Football podcast for the 2020-2021 season. We'll see if he steps up, see if he has a better campaign, but he's had an absolute mare of a season.
Well, on that note, that's it. That's it for this season from the Yorkshire Football podcast. If you have listened, thank you very much. All 30 of you, I believe, who listened to the last episode. You're very much.
By the way, it is only 6 weeks until the new season, and I'm sure we'll sort out a pre-season prediction show at some point, so we won't be gone for long. But
we'll all put a couple of quid in, mate, and we'll get some advertising done as well.
I'm still waiting on that Yorkshire tea sponsorship, so yeah.
We'll keep Gooders out of IKEA. I mean, if you look at his Instagram, by the way, it's like he's living the IKEA lifestyle. Coffee machine's always on, his craft ales are always cracked open.
He's got pencils all over his house.
Attractive women everywhere. He's a good-looking man. So yeah, on that note, that has been it. Thank you very much for listening this season. We will be back next season. If you just tell one of your friends, that will double the audience size. If they tell another one of their friends, it triples it. So do it. Come on. We're not doing this for a laugh, you know. We're doing it because the people of Yorkshire need to be informed, and we're the people to give you that valuable insight into Yorkshire football. No one else is doing it as conclusively and in one place as us.
By the way, that'd work if we had 1 million listeners. So
you laughed. I was being serious. It's you two. So please do join us next season on the Yorkshire Football podcast. If I don't see you for a week, oh no, I'm not going to say that. That's someone else's catchphrase. I thought it was.
That's why no one listens.
In my brain, thinking really quickly, I thought that was like a traditional Yorkshire term, and then I realised it was just bloody Keith Lennon. We'll see you next season.